Everyone, I'm here today to look at using our scraps to make more cards. Especially when I'm making lawn fawn cards, I create lots of different options, and a lot of times these just sit on my desk and I don't do anything with them. So I did a lot of embossing, ink blending, some gel press, things like this with my last project, and I've got all of it sitting here and it's coordinated. So we're going to put all this together and we're going to make 4 different cards with it. So I'm going to take you through those tips and tricks and we'll get started. Make sure if you haven't done it yet that you hit the like and subscribe button. I'd really appreciate that. And a huge portion of my videos, people are not subscribed. I would love to have you here. I promise to be producing content usually at least once a week, sometimes more than that. One tip I will say is if you are going to mass produce and use your scraps, it is helpful if the projects that you have done previously are all coordinated. So this was 2 projects worth of lawn fawn, one with gel press and one with a lot of embossing with stencils. So I've got lots of different products to use here, which is helpful. I also want to mention that in the description, I'm going to be including a free ticket to the upcoming Card Maker Success Summit. Make sure to click that link if you're interested. There's about 25 different people doing classes, and clicking through that link really helps me. It does not cost you anything. So I hope that you will do that. Let's look at these scraps and figure out what we're going to do. I'm going to start with my scraps that are already cut into shapes. So I have this heart that I cut out. I made a shaker card. I'll pop that up in the screen to show you what I made from this and how I have this piece left over. So one thing I always do with lawn fawn is cut out a lot of extra pieces, especially when I'm using my brother's Scan and Cut to cut. So I definitely stamp an abundance of images, and these are what I have left over. So I'm going to color all these guys to match so that the project does match really well. So I'm going to show you my colors that I'm using, but I'm not going to take you through the whole process. I used the cool gray sketch markers, and I've used C2, C3, and C5 for these little guys. So I think that especially when you're going to be taking photos and showing your project together and how you've made it, like I'm going to do with this, it's nice if all your characters are colored the same. I think that just makes it very cohesive and it looks great. So that's why I don't always color all of my images when I cut them out. I usually kind of look at my project and start with what I need and leave myself lots of these blank images in case I go back and use my scraps. So I did cut out a bigger heart out of one of the gel press plates that I had there. The smaller heart had already been cut out because it was part of a shaker card I'd made previously, and I do need some type of sentiment. So I grabbed some of my extra sentiments and a wavy banner. I've got my little characters and we're going to put this together. So when I'm looking at all of these scraps, I'm looking at how they can fit on a card, but I'm also going to make some extra things to go with it. Like making the sentiment is perfectly fine. You can add little things that maybe weren't on your original cards, and that just gives you some more options to use. So I'm gonna ink blend to match my little sentiment strip, stamp it, emboss it, and put it on this card. I did want to show you a quick tip when you're doing a sentiment like this. Using your MISTI is very helpful because you can curve the sentiment. This sentiment's not made to go with the wavy banners. It's just another one that I picked up. It's actually a free one that came in a lawn fawn package. You know how they send you the little sentiments? So you can curve any sentiment to fit. So I go on and cut out my banner so I can look at where I'm going to place it. I put a little bit of sticky tape runner behind that banner so it doesn't pop up when I'm dealing with it, and then I'm going to add some clear embossing. So you could emboss this with black and use Versamark ink, but I really like to use a black ink and emboss in clear. I feel like that gives me better results. So I'm going to use this Wow Clear, emboss this, and I'll show you what the final card looks like. So here's the final. I cut out that extra heart. So I had one heart from a shaker card, cut out an extra heart of a gel press, and then the background is one of the embossed stencil things that I did. So you've got all of these layers. I've added my little characters and a sentiment, and that card is done. Let's move to the next one. This card to me is a reason why you don't throw away panels you don't like. So I had done this panel. I didn't really like how this stencil paste came out at the bottom, kind of messed that up. So I'm coming up with a way, how can I cover this up? Could I put an XO on it? We could definitely need to flatten this panel out, which I'll work on just by bending it and getting it in better shape, but I'm also going to attach it to a panel behind it to try to keep that flat. So what I decide to do is I'm going to cut out and make myself a little shaker card right here. So that takes care of where the panel has been messed up, and I think it's going to look really cute. It also keeps me where I only have to use probably one character, and you know, I've only got 3 characters that I've pre-colored, so that really helps out too. So I'm going to grab myself a little piece of acetate. This is from the Lawn Fawn's clear acetate, which I love their acetate, and I'm going to tape it on the back of this card. So I don't use any liquid glue when I'm doing a shaker panel because I don't want that glue to kind of squeeze onto the clear acetate and be able to be seen. So I'm going to use this really thin double-sided adhesive, and I'm going to go all around this, especially on little areas that stick out. So I know that's teeny tiny, but it really does look nicer if you've got these little pieces stuck to the panel so they're not raising up and getting caught. So I'm going to get that done, and then we'll look at what we're going to do next. So here it is with that panel on it. I did keep the middle of the O's, and I feel like that just makes, I mean, if you wanted a bigger shaker window, you don't have to put those in, but I like to put the middle of my letters back. I just think it's easier to read it. So I'm going to add those to the front panel with the double-sided adhesive. And we definitely need a back panel so that it can be the back of the shaker card. So I'm cutting that to the appropriate size, just matching the size of my front panel. And then I don't like just the plain white looking through this, so I am going to use some ink blending and coordinate everything. Since I've used spun sugar on all the other parts, I'm just going to add some spun sugar right in this bottom corner. You know, you don't have to do the whole panel because you're only seeing where that XO is coming through. So I'm just kind of lightly adding some color here. Did a little bit darker towards the bottom and made it lighten as it goes to the top. You could do it solid, but I think it just gives your card a cool look when you make it a little more ombre looking. Can you tell the difference? I love that. So I'm going to do that, and then we'll put this card together. All that's left to do is add foam tape, which I've added around my box there, and then I always put my embellishments in the area where they're going to be, and then I set the foam tape panel on top. You could make your like you could put those little embellishments inside the foam tape window and then put this panel on top, but I feel like you've got better control over where it's going when you pour your sequins on the bottom panel and then you add the foam tape panel on top. So I've added the foam tape panel. Now I'm just going to add my little character on here, and this card will be done. So let me show you how this moves. It looks so cute. So I think this could be used as a Valentine's card, but I also thought I might put on the inside happy birthday. Gave me the idea that the next card I was going to do was going to be happy birthday. So I have this large happy birthday to you, which is a big Lawn Fawn die. This will make a very simple card. I love that. So I took one of my panels that I had embossed with the stencil, the Lots of Heart stencil, and I cut out this happy birthday to you, and then we're going to make it look real cute. This die cuts really well, but what I did is I ran it through my spellbinders on very little pressure, just enough to hopefully cut it. But when you run a already embossed panel through a die cutter, especially one with a really high pressure, you're going to flatten out your design. And yes, part of it did flatten out, and I'm having to fight with this a little bit more, but it still is there and visible. So I would just say when you're going to go and cut something on top of an already embossed panel, you need to do it as light as you possibly can. So I grabbed one of my gel press panels that I had that actually has a little bit of that pattern of the hearts on it too. It's very light, and I'm going to use this behind my happy birthday. So I'm going to show you how that looks. It's a quick shot of it. So you can see I've already embossed this, and I used my gel press with spun sugar to create that panel. So that's going to be the background. So let's make the happy birthday stand out a little bit better. Like I've done in some other panels, I'm going to make this an ombre look by creating darker at the bottom and moving to lighter, and that just gives it a little bit of interest. And it also on that front panel, it just looks really nice to have a little bit more color. You've got color behind this happy birthday, but if you don't put something on it, it just kind of, it doesn't stand out great against that plain white background. So I'm adding a little to it. I'll speed this up so that you can see how it turns out. So here's how that looks. I think that just looks really cute and it's very easy to do. So let's make our shaker card. On this one, I just did a rectangle around this sentiment, which makes these really easy shaker cards to make. It's nice when you can just go around it with the foam strips. I did do a double layer because I'm going to use a shaker mix, and those shaker mixes a lot of times have some taller items. So I go around and make this 2 widths of foam tape so that we've got enough room. And it's always good to check your shaker pieces and just make sure they will not stick up past even the second layer of foam, because you can do as many layers as you want. I usually don't go past 2 layers because I just like the way that looks. So we'll do that, and then I'm going to show you the shaker mix that I used. Essential component to all shaker cards is powdering the edges of this so that the pieces don't stick to your foam tape. So I'm using one of these brushes. This one's from Cat Scrappiness. There's several different companies that make these, but it really produces a lot of powder and helps those edges. I always, once I've done it, I run things over the front too, just to get any little pieces off that don't need to be there. And then I run my finger along the foam tape to make sure I'm not feeling any sticky. So another tip I have for when you're putting together a lot of cards is to go through your drawers and look at everything that has similar colors. So I found this group of Buttons Galore More Sparkletz, and this was a beautiful pink that when I held it up to the spun sugar matched perfectly. So I grab everything that I can that matches. So I've got lots of options on my desk to help me make these cards come together. And this shaker mix is so cute. Those bigger baubles that are glass right there, they are a little too tall, I feel like, for this, so I'm just going to keep them out of it. You remember with shaker mixes, if something's not working, just get that part out of your mix. That's perfectly fine to do. So this is going to be our mix, and I'm going to put on my front panel and I'll show you the final card. Look at how cute this looks with a couple little characters. Remember, we have some characters, so I put those in those little extra pieces, and it just looks so cute. This is the last one that we're going to make, and this is a shutter card backing. So I had already pre-ink blended this, and now I'm going to do some of the inside of the card with that same stencil. So this is the stencil I've been using to emboss things, and I'm going to add stenciling to the inside of this card, and then we'll need to cut some pieces out to create the shutter card. Here's how that looks like with the stencil parts. Now, if you remember, I've got a whole video on how to put these things together, but we need the inside shutter pieces. So off camera, I cut those out of Ballet Slippers, which is a great cardstock from Lawn Fawn that matches spun sugar really well. I'm going to use some of this Stackables glitter gel and just put some hearts on those panels so they're not completely plain. I like to just add extra details to as many things as I can. So I'm going to add some of this, let it dry, and then assemble the shutter card. So I've got the shutter window pieces, and those are just cut out of plain ballet cardstock. I did not do any type of fancy thing on that because I want them to move when you open the card really well, so I don't want to have any glitter or anything on top of them. And then these are going to be the front panels of the card. So remember, I'd already ink blended my card, and now I'm going to attach these front panels so that it just looks really cute when even before you open the card. So here it is with those front panels. You definitely want to hold those flat for a little bit, make sure they stick well. I like in the inside of my card, so I've got the stenciling done. You see the stenciling, but I love along the bottom to put some grass, and I had this extra grass piece that I always keep this because it's so good to layer other cards, but I'd pre-ink blended and just had it in my stash of scraps is this. So what I did was measure, and I'm going to put some crease marks in it so that I can make sure it folds with the card and add that in, and then we've got our front plate and we'll be done. So I used my works tool to measure, and then I'm adding score marks where this needs to bend, and that really helps the card move better. So now I'm going to put my skunks in the middle. So I'm going to use a pencil and see where this comes together so that I can kind of line things up on center. So I put it together like it's supposed to be, and I stick my pencil mark right in that little area because that's going to be the center of my picture and the main part of what I see. So I'm going to use that to line up my skunks, put those in there, and then this card will be about ready. You can see my grass here is like uneven in the middle, but this big panel that goes over the front covers a lot of that. See how I've got my grass kind of uneven? I'm going to use liquid glue. Sometimes I'll use a another adhesive, but I feel like the liquid glue sticks better and it gives you a little bit of movement. And this top panel is tricky. So you want to go ahead and attach, but leave a little bit of white showing right there because this panel is just long enough. And so you have to leave a little bit of space for it to work. So I'm going to do this, make sure I've got my little wings of all of that tucked in. See, they're behind and they overlap each other. And then I usually attach a little clip and really hold this for a while to make sure it stays. I added a happy birthday sentiment to this card, so just remember this does not have to be Valentine's, even though the set is Valentine's Day. I needed some more happy birthdays in my stash, so I did that. I had so much fun with this video. Everything that I used is linked in the description below, so make sure to go through those links if you're shopping today. That really helps me out, gives me a small commission, and does not cost you anything. If you hadn't done it yet, hit the subscribe button. I will be back with more Lawn Fawn videos. Got lots of brother scan and cut videos coming, so stick with me. I hope to see you again soon. Have a great day. Bye.